Today I want to talk about the clothing you're going to need to bring to the Klondike Derby. One of the nice things about living where we do in Central California is that the winters aren't very harsh, and so you don't need to buy a lot of specialized winter gear to stay warm, to stay comfortable. You can probably adapt a lot of the clothing you already have to work in this environment. So that's going to be the focus of today's video. It's going to talk about specifically what types of base layers, mid layers, and outer layers to bring and how to make them all work together as part of a coherent system. The first system that I want to talk about is your base layer. The purpose of your base layer is to lay right next to your skin and to take all of the sweat and moisture from your body and to absorb it, to wick it away from your body, increase the surface area of that moisture, and facilitate that moisture evaporating out into your clothing system and venting out to the atmosphere so that you don't get wet. If you're wet, you're going to get cold. So since a base layer needs to lay next to the skin and absorb moisture and then get rid of it, it can't be made of cotton. You want to use either a synthetic material like polypropylene, or the best thing is wool, merino wool. Merino wool is very thin, it's very soft, it's very comfortable. It can absorb water and still keep you warm. It's naturally antimicrobial, and it works in all temperatures. This particular shirt, this quarter zip long sleeve shirt, I use it year round. Ideally, you should bring a set of long underwear for every day that you're going to be out. In addition to the top, you also want wool long underwear bottoms, full length. Again, you want these to fit close to the skin, but not constrictive. The next layer I want to talk about is your outer layer. Your outer layer needs to protect you from the environment, from rain, from snow, and from wind. So it needs to be windproof, it needs to be waterproof, but it also needs to have some means of letting sweat and heat and vapor from your body escape out into the atmosphere, whether that is Gore-Tex, whether that is built-in ventilation, underarm zips, back zips, chest zips, or ideally some combination of the two. You need to be able to let moisture from the inside escape. The nice thing about Central California winters, they're not very severe, so we don't need those big, bulky, insulated parkas like you see in other areas. My outer layer jacket weighs a couple of ounces and it's very, very small. There's no insulation in here. It's waterproof on the outside. It has vents under the arms. It has a Gore-Tex liner. Very, very compact, very, very light. The same story with the pants. I want them lightweight, unlined, waterproof outside, Gore-Tex breathable on the inside. These happen to have zippers that run all the way down the legs because I like to be able to put these on and take these off quickly on the trail without having to mess with taking my boots off in the snow or in the rain. So that's a feature that I really look for in my pants. So now that we've covered base layers and outer layers, I left the mid layers for last because your mid layers are the layers that are going to have the most variability. You're going to really tailor your mid layers to suit the conditions and the temperatures of what you're going to be doing that weekend. So in general, for most of our winter conditions here in Central California, I like a pair of uninsulated soft shell pants. These happen to have a little bit of stretch to them. These have a little more warmth to them than just a thin pair of nylon hiking pants, but they're not as hot as an insulated or fleece-lined pair of soft shells. So I find them to be the most versatile. I can use them 9 months out of the year. And then for an upper layer, I'm a fan of just a simple polypropylene or wool sweater, just a quarter zip sweater on the neck. And this is going to give me a little bit of loft, it's going to give me a little bit of insulation to keep me warm, especially if I'm active. That's really all I need. It might also be nice to wear a very, very thin, lightweight merino or some kind of heat gear synthetic short sleeve t-shirt. So if it gets really hot, you're working out a lot, you can strip off all those layers down to the t-shirt and vent some heat really quickly as well. Alright, so now we've talked about all the body layers. I want to talk about socks and boots. Invest in a couple quality pairs of wool socks. Again, I like merino wool because it's thin, it's long wearing, it's antimicrobial, it's very, very comfortable. And I would ideally bring at least one pair for each day you're going to be out there. So a pair of nice wool socks for hiking. And then for a boot, I like an all leather hiking boot with about a 6-inch top. These happen to be Gore-Tex for a little extra protection from moisture. A decent sole so that you're going to have decent grip on the snow. And you might even accentuate that with something like a pair of gaiters to help keep snow from going up your pants and down into your boot. I want to talk about a few accessories like gloves and hats. So for hats, I generally bring 2 hats. During the day, I bring the same type of sun protection hat I would wear when I was hiking in the summertime to protect my head from the sun. And then at night, when it gets colder, I will bring more of a ski winter type hat. I like one with ear flaps, and that's rated for wind protection. And this is the type of hat that I will usually wear in the morning, at night, and possibly even in bed if I need to stay warm. Gloves are a really tricky one, because if you're going to be running around, being very active, getting down in the snow, doing a lot of the types of events that we're going to be doing on this activity, your gloves are going to get wet. The best thing I recommend is something that was designed generally for snowboarding. It's typically a gauntlet style glove. It comes a little farther down the arm. It's got some extra things to secure it against your sleeve. Really thick palms. It has removable inner liners, and so you could buy additional liners if they wet out. You lose a lot of dexterity with something like this, but it's going to keep you the warmest and the driest for the longest amount of time. If you're not going to be in the snow a lot, digging in the snow with your hands, touching cold, wet things, you might be able to get away with what I use, which is just a thinner pair of running style gloves. I don't spend a lot of time getting hands-on with things in the snow. I'm usually just standing around, and I keep my hands pretty dry anyway, so I just need a little bit of wind protection, and this is usually sufficient for me. If I need to go hands-on with something cold and wet, I will actually take these off, do what I need to do, dry my hands off, warm them back up, and then put the glove back on. So there's a little bit of strategy involved. The last few things I want to talk about are some things that aren't really clothing, but they're things that I like to have on my person, in my pockets during the day at an event like this, because they make life a little more comfortable, a little more convenient. So the first thing is, along the lines of the hats, some sun protection for my eyes. If you've never been in the snow before, the sun will bounce off of the snow and bounce back into your eyes. It's very, very bright, and it can really, really hurt, and can actually cause something called snow blindness. So a pair of sunglasses is very important. On that same topic, some sunscreen. Doesn't need to be a lot, but bring something that I can carry with me in a small pocket on my jacket, where a couple times during the day, if I start to sweat, or if I take off a layer and now I'm in short sleeves, I can hit myself with some sunscreen, and again protect myself from all that extra solar radiation that's going to be bouncing up in my face. Making sure you protect things like under your chin, under your nose, the bottoms of your ears. You'll get sunburn in places you've never gotten it before if you've never been in the snow before. It gets dark fairly early in the wintertime. It gets dark even faster up in the mountains. So I like to always keep a headlamp, a lightweight headlamp, in my pocket with me all day so that it's there when I need it. Make sure you have fresh, high-quality brand name batteries in the flashlight before you come up. If you can spring for a waterproof flashlight, even better. But I always have this on me, so if I need it, I have it, and I don't need to go rummaging in my pack looking for it, and there's no chance of it getting lost because I can feel it in my pocket all day. And then the last thing is some kind of water bottle. Doesn't need to be big, doesn't need to be insulated. If your water freezes on you during the day, that means you haven't been drinking it fast enough. So I will keep this usually maybe in an inside pocket of my jacket. I'll keep it next to my body. If I'm wearing a backpack, I'll wear some kind of a bladder in my backpack. That way I'm always hydrating during the day, because even though it's cold outside, you are going to work up more of a sweat than you think. And if you're wearing a good clothing system that really does an adequate job of wicking and transporting moisture away from your body, you might not feel yourself sweating, but you will be dehydrating. So make sure you stay hydrated. So a quick recap of our 6-piece basic body layering system. We have long merino wool base layer bottom, long merino wool base layer top, ideally with some kind of quarter zip, and then over that we've got an uninsulated soft shell type of pants with some water and wind resistance built into them, and a quarter zip or even full zip synthetic or wool mid-weight sweater, maybe 150, 200 weight at the most. And then over that we've got a pair of uninsulated, waterproof, breathable ski pants that have zips all the way down the sides, and a lightweight, uninsulated, waterproof, breathable jacket with a hood and with ideally some kind of venting. The real trick with the layering system is those 6 pieces, when you bring all of them and use them all together, wearing every single piece, that should keep you as warm as you need to be during the coldest, most static parts of that particular outing. Like maybe in the morning when you're not moving, it's cold, and you're just huddled around a camp stove cooking breakfast, not generating a lot of body heat. Those layers should be enough to keep you warm. And then when you start getting active later in the day, you can take off the outer layer bottoms and the outer layer top, and maybe even take off the mid layer top, and now you're just down to mid layer bottoms, base layer top, and that should keep you cool enough during the hardest working, hottest parts of the same trip. So no need to bring lots of multiple layers. I bring synthetics and I bring wool because they either don't get wet, they keep you warm when they are wet, and they dry very quickly. Cotton is not going to do any of those things. As soon as it's wet, it stops insulating, it never dries, and it chafes, and it gets heavier. So just don't bring cotton at all if you can afford it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Now take what you've learned here today, go out and start building a clothing system that is going to work for you in the winter and hopefully all the seasons of the year. And now is a great time to start experimenting with these layers, going out, camping with them, hiking with them, finding what works, finding what doesn't, making some little tweaks so that when you do come down to the Klondike Derby, you'll be ready to go, you'll be comfortable, you'll be happy the whole weekend. Thank you very much, and stay safe.